Hi, welcome to another episode of Junk Wax Junkie. I'm Matt, your expert for all things junk wax. Today I'm going to talk about an unusual set from the junk wax era, actually an unusual series of sets, Sportflics. Now, Sportflics were released from 1985 to 1988, and the idea was that when you looked at the card, you would move the card and you could see them in action. I'm not sure how well the camera is pointing this out, but you can, in this Nolan Ryan card, you see his face, and then you see him actually pitching the ball. In this wonderful example of Ryan Sandberg right here, you can see the same kind of thing. And the idea behind it was, again, that you actually see them in motion. Now, Sportflics was actually kind of a cool set, but it had a lot of drawbacks to it. It was neat, and it was kind of cool to see a kind of hologram like this, where you could see your players kind of doing different things. Here's a Don Mattingly, which is pretty cool, but they were expensive. At the time, this is like from 1986. In 1986, Topps or Fleer or any of the other packs would run you about 35 cents per pack, and you'd get 15 to 17 cards depending. But a pack of Sportflics would be 3, and I don't know, you'd get 3 cards instead of that many. And when you would go to a baseball card shop, the card shop I went to as a kid in Mexico, Missouri, would show they sold them for $1.25 a pack. So they were more than 3 times the cost of a regular pack, but instead of getting 15 to 17 cards, you'd get 3. So this was kind of a card set that if you had an extra couple of dollars, you might buy a pack, but that was pretty much it. That was one problem with it, is that compared to back then, it was pretty expensive. But also the card stock is very thick. So if you put them in your pages in your star book, they would stretch the pages out. So once you put one of those cards in your pages, well, then it pretty much had to stay there. But also in your book, if you had a bunch of these, and you can tell on the camera how it looks like just a blurb. It doesn't really look like a card. It just looks like some kind of blob on something, and unless you actually look at the card carefully, you can't really tell who's on it. This is Dave Parker, and the only way you can tell who the card is if you see their face. It was actually a very novel idea, like you see in this Jim Rice, this is actually kind of a cool one of Tom Seaver in his Boston Red Sox uniform. It was kind of a cool idea, but it didn't really take off. In 1986, this was actually a cool card to have. These Sportflics were kind of cool to have. By 1988, they lost their panache. And so people really weren't buying them anymore. Now, something interesting about this, I've looked these up on eBay, and I have saw several complete sets of Sportflics that you can get for $10 from 1986. I saw some at 8, some at 9, some at 10, somewhere around there, which means, and there was about 220 cards per set, which means at $3 a pack, if you would have bought those cards then and then sold them now, there would be no return on your investment, like all cards from junk wax. It's amazing how it'd be about 40 cents a card then, and now you can get them for about, if you buy a complete set, for about 5 cents a card. So the era of Sportflics is kind of a cool one. Oh, and there's one more thing I got to mention. Here's Robin Yount. Now, this is a Robin Yount 1987 Sportflics. There's a thing, I found something interesting about Robin Yount. The 1986 Sportflics, supposedly there was an error on the back of the card, where instead of saying Brewers, and this is a Nolan Ryan one, but instead of saying Brewers, it said Yankees. Now, PSA says they've graded 30 of those, somewhere between 30 and 40 as of 2017. But the PCA manager said yes, he recognized the error, but they collected them all and destroyed them immediately. But as we all know, a lot of times these cards can end up kind of disappearing from the factory floor or just kind of getting their way smuggled out. Supposedly exists. I've never seen one. I've looked for one. I've asked about them. Supposedly it does exist, but yet the company that made Sportflics insists to this day that they were collected and destroyed. But I bet there's some that are probably out there. If you find some videos of one, let me know. If you send me the link, if you know any more information about that, post it in the comments. That'd be great. Sportflics, though, were a great card. Was pretty good, but it just, if this would have been produced in the 70s or something, it probably would have had more of a go. But by the time it was released, for about 4 years it was cool, but then after that it was done, and Sportflics kind of wrapped everything up by 1988. Hope you enjoy a little bit of information about Sportflics. Remember to like and subscribe for all things junk wax.